All right, so let us start. Last class we talk about norms, right? So we talk about vector norms, and then we see how to define a vector norm, right? So we see about L1 norm, L2 norm, L infinity norm, right? So all of them are vector norms, and we see how we can compute them, right? And then we see what are the properties norms satisfy, right? Or basically we see that as a definition. And then we see that according to these and these rules, we call that something is a vector norm. So now, next concept is matrix norm. Right, so this is called matrix norm. So matrix norm is basically associated with a matrix, right? So we call to define a matrix norm, right? So we will define first a vector norm, right? So let this subscript B be a vector norm, right? So then, right? So then we define something called a subordinate matrix norm, right? So a subordinate matrix norm, right? Right. So for a vector x, right? For a matrix A, we define a subordinate matrix norm by supremum, or in a way it is maximum, right? So supremum is, in most cases it can be considered as a maximum as well, but the people who study pure mathematics in level 1G, you know the meaning of supremum. Other people, you can think of it as a maximum, right? So it is the supremum of AX, right? So AX is now a vector, and A is a matrix, X is a vector. So when you multiply AX, you know you get a vector, right? Divided by X for all X satisfying the all X which are non-zero, right, in the interval. So as long as the vector norm is defined, you can define a subordinate matrix norm, right? So we will not focus on how to define a matrix norm here, right? So just for your information, this definition is given, but we will use matrix norm and some of its properties, right? So these are the properties of a matrix norm. This is what we are going to use, right? Right, so a matrix norm will satisfy these conditions, right? The first four are common norm conditions, right? So for vector norm also we see those conditions, right? Norm is greater or equal to 0. If norm is 0, then the component inside should be 0, and vice versa. And constant multiple is actually absolute value of the constant times the norm. And then triangle inequality, right? A plus b is less or equal to a plus b. Right? So those are the properties commonly we study for norm, including vector norm. But this one is the special property, the last one, right? So this has to do with both vector norm and matrix norm. Right? So you can see that this is a vector norm, right? And this is a vector norm. X is a vector, Ax is a vector. So Ax norm is a vector norm and X is a vector norm. But norm A is a matrix norm. Right? So this is basically this gives you a relationship between a vector norm and a matrix norm. Right? So norm of Ax is less or equal to norm of A times norm of X, right? So this property we will use in several places. So you should know that this property is true for a matrix, right? So we can prove this, but that is not within the range of your course. So we will not prove it, right? But the next result we are going to prove, right? So that is about the multiplicative property of norms, matrix norms, right? So that is again a useful result which we will use in several places. But for that, we will try to prove it. This one is quite easy. You can take any textbook and that proof is there. So let me prove the next one, right? So this theorem is this. So I will say this as a theorem. This says norm of AB is less or equal to norm of A times norm of B. So this is multiplication of matrix norms. So multiplication inside matrix norms. Right? A matrix multiplied by another matrix and its norm is less or equal to this. Right? So this we can easily see that. Right? So first we know that this right. So if you want consider A times B times X for a vector X, and so let X be positive, or sorry, X be non-zero, then A times B times X is A times B times X. Right? B times X is a vector. So by the property which I just wrote here, I can say that this is less or equal to norm of A times norm of Bx, and because matrix times vector is less or equal to matrix times norm of the vector, right? But this, for this again I can use the property, right? So this says again less or equal to A times B times norm of X, right? So I use this circle property twice, right? I'm using it 2 times, right? So, but you know that norm of AB is this, supremum of AB of X divided by norm of X. That is the definition, right? So I can leave the X here. Right, so this is my definition for norm AB. But this is less or equal to supremum of A, B, X over X. Right? So X is non-zero, you know, definition, X is not equal to 0. Because you know A, B, X is less or equal to A, B times X. So I am using it here. Here I am using the definition of this, and here I am using this inequality which I just showed you. X is non-zero, so I can cancel x and x, right? So when I cancel x and x, there is no x. So if there is no x, maximum or supremum is equal to norm of A times norm of B. Right? So if you combine both of them, you can see that norm of AB is less than or equal to norm of A times norm of B. Right? So this is how, this is again another property of a metric norm. Right? So now you know that we define, we gave some examples of vector norms, right? So L1 norm, L2 norm, L infinity norm, right? All of them we define. So similarly, we can define different norms for matrix as well. Right? So let me write down some examples. So I am not going to prove that they are matrix norms, but just I am going to introduce them. Example of matrix norms. One is infinity norm or max row sum norm. We call it infinity norm, right? Infinity matrix norm or maximum row sum norm. Infinity, yeah. Maximum row sum norm. So the maximum row sum norm, if I say maximum row sum norm, then you know the idea, right? So you take the sum of all the rows and take the maximum. Right? So that is why it is called maximum row sum norm. Right? So let's say A be a matrix of this notation. Right? So again, we will take n cross n matrix, no problem. Right? Even if you want m cross n, it is fine. I'll stick with n cross n matrix because we will always have square matrix in this course, so we will stick with that. So maximum row sum norm. So A infinity is going to, you take the maximum of row sum. Right? Rows are A12, A12, A13, A14, A19, right? B12, A21, A22, A23, and so on. Right? So maximum of summation of j running from 1 to n, absolute value of Aij. And then this maximum is taken over all I. Right, so this is the row sum, right? So absolute value of the components in each row, right? And you take the sum of that, and then take the maximum among all such rows. Okay? So if there is a row sum, then obviously you know there should be a column sum as well. Okay? So one norm for maximum column sum norm. So here A1 norm is maximum of the column sums. I is equal to right, so one norm and infinity norm. So these are the two norms we are going to define. We are not going to define the L2 norm or 2 norm here. That is a spectral norm. Right, so that is defined in a different way. So here we will define only two things. One is row sum norm, and the other one is column sum norm. Okay. So we are not going to prove that these are norms, but we are going to see an example where we compute these norms. example, AB 1 minus 1 2 minus 3 minus 3 1 2 1 1 minus 4 1 0 0 minus 2 3 minus 5. Okay, so we have a 4 cross 4 matrix. Right, so it is not necessarily square, but just I make it as a square so that it's easy, because in this course you always have square matrix, right? So even if it is a not square matrix, you can always compute it. Right, so if you want to compute the infinity norm, right, so then what you have to do is you have to take the maximum row sum. So you take maximum among, there are 4 rows, so you have to sum all 4 rows, right, and take the maximum among them. So I will put absolute value so that you know what rows I am summing. Let me name this 2. Right, so I put the sum of all 4 rows separately. Row 1 sum, row 2 sum, row 3 sum, row 4 sum, right, absolute sum, and then you take the maximum. Right. So taking the maximum, you know how to take the maximum. So it will be 8, I believe. Right, so this one gives you the maximum, I believe. So you can check the work. So infinity norm is 8. Right. Similarly, the one norm or maximum column sum norm also you can do. Right. So if you want to get one norm, norm of A1, that is again maximum of, you take all the columns, right? So this time 1 minus 1, 2 minus 3. Second column minus 3 plus 1 plus 2 plus 1. Third column 1 plus minus 4 plus 1 plus 0. Fourth column 0 plus minus 2 plus 2 plus minus 1. Right, so you take the maximum, and 2 places I believe you will get 7. First and second will give you 7. Right, so the maximum is 7. It doesn't matter which rows or which columns give you the maximum. And sometimes you may have 2 values which are same, but you always pick the maximum, right? So even if both values are same, you can take the maximum. So you see that the row sum norm and column sum norm are not necessarily equal to each other, right? But you can always compute the row sum norm and the column sum norm of the matrix by using this definition, right? So just take the row sum and take the maximum, that gives you infinity norm, and take the column sum and take the maximum, that gives you 1 norm. Right? So these are the 2 norms we will be using in this section, right? 2 norm I will define, but not necessarily we are using it, right? So the 2 norm is defined as square root of rho of A transpose A. Right, so that is difficult to compute, right? So because you have to multiply A transpose with A, and then you have to find all the eigenvalues of A transpose A, and then you take the maximum absolute value among them, and then you take the square root. So that's a big work. So we will not going to do this, but just for your information, the 2 norm is defined like this, right? So now we define the norm and the properties, right? So now what we are going to do is we are going to see how to estimate the errors, right? So the purpose of this second chapter or second section is to estimate the error in the computations, right? So we wanted to estimate the error. So for that only we started defining norms, right? Because if it is one real value, you can do all those with the absolute values, right? If it is just a single real number, then you can use absolute value to avoid plus and minus, right? And then you can estimate the error based using absolute value, right? That is what we did in second year numerical analysis chapter 1, right? So when we do error analysis, we talk about absolute values only, right? But here, because we are using vectors and matrices, we define vector norm and matrix norm, so that basically is a kind of measure of those vectors and matrices. So based on using those measures, we can avoid plus or minus thing in the error analysis, and we will try to estimate the errors by using these norms. So that is the purpose. So now we will try to build up theories which are needed to compute or to do the error analysis, right, based on these norms. So we will do one by one. Okay, first, the first results, I'm not going to prove it, I just want to say it, right? Right? So we say that a matrix A is convergent if you take A to the power k power and let k goes to infinity, that goes to 0. If you have that kind of matrix, then you can say that that matrix is convergent, right? All the components must goes to 0. And so if you have that kind of a matrix, then you can see that is a convergent matrix, right? So say for example, if you have, let's say, let me try to find an example. Right, so if I have a matrix like this, 1 upon 2 and 1 upon 3, right? So you know that A square is 1 upon 2 square, 0, 1 into 0, 1 upon 3 square. Right? So in this example, if you have A like this, then you see A squared is this, A cubed will be this, So you can multiply. Right, so similarly, you can see that AK is going to be 1 upon 2 to the power k, 0, 0, 1 upon 3 to the power k. And when you let k goes to infinity, right, so this will convert to 1 upon 2 to the power k goes to 0, 0 goes to 0, 0 goes to 0, 1 upon 3 goes to 0. So this goes to a 0 matrix, right? So this is an example of a convergent matrix, right? So when a goes to k goes to infinity, a to the power k goes to a 0 matrix, right? So when I say 0, it is not a number 0, it is a matrix with all its components or all its entries being 0, right? So that is called a 0 matrix. So we call a matrix a convergent matrix if a to the power k goes to 0, right? So this convergent matrix thing we will use later on in our results, right? So now let us use define another results, right? It's right. So if A is a given matrix, then you know you can find the eigenvalues of a matrix, right? So the matrix will have eigenvalues lambda 1, lambda 2, lambda 3 up to lambda n, right? If it is an n cross n matrix, then the absolute value of the eigenvalue is less or equal to matrix norm of A for some subordinate matrix norm, right? And for some subordinate matrix norm of A, right? So absolute value of eigenvalue is less or equal to norm of A for any eigenvalue of a given matrix A. So we shall prove this, right? So let us prove this because the proof is simple. So let's prove it. And first define the eigenvalue, and so you know that Ax is equal to lambda x with x not equal to 0, right? So this is the definition of eigenvalue. If lambda is an eigenvalue, then you know that Ax equal to lambda x for some non-zero vector x known as eigenvector. So you take absolute value on both, norm on both sides. So when you take norm, right, so let's write here. So norm of Ax is basically norm of lambda x, right? So when you take norm, if both are equal, norm is equal. But lambda is a constant, x is a vector. So the norm property says it is absolute value of lambda times norm of x. And so that is by the norm property on vector norms. Right? So last class we studied by the norm property on the vector norm. But today we see that this. And the matrix norm and vector norm combined together. Right? So we see that norm of Ax is less or equal to norm of A times norm of x. But norm of Ax equal to this, but this is less or equal to this. So when you combine both of them, you get absolute value of lambda times norm of x is less or equal to norm of A and norm of x. But x is non-zero, so norm of x is non-zero. So you can cancel norm, right? Because x is non-zero, norm of x is strictly positive. You know that by definition of norm, norm of x is always greater or equal to 0. And it is equal to 0 only when x is equal to 0. So here x is non-zero, so norm of x is greater than 0. So when you divide both sides of the inequality by a positive number, you know that the inequality does not change. Right? Only when you are dividing by minus number only, the inequality changes the sign. Here, you don't divide by minus, you divide by positive. So you can divide without any problem. So this gives lambda is equal to A. Right? So as a consequence of this, we shall get another result. Right? From this, right? So because lambda is an arbitrary eigenvalue, for all eigenvalues of A, lambda is less or equal to norm of A. Absolute value of lambda is less or equal to norm of A for all eigenvalues lambda of A. So in that case, you can say that maximum of those lambdas, absolute value of lambdas, is also less or equal to A. Therefore, we have a name for maximum of lambda, that is called rho of A. Right? Rho is called the spectral radius. Right? Rho is called spectral radius of A. Right? So because of this results, we know that for any subordinate metric norm A, the spectral radius of A is less or equal to norm of A. Right? So that is another consequence of results we can get here. Right? Right. So now, based on this, we will develop another results. Right? So now we talk about convergent matrix and we talk about the relationship between eigenvalue and the subordinate matrix norms, right? So those are the two things we defined so far. Right? So now what we are going to do is we are going to prove a theorem. Okay, so we have these 4 results, right, for a given matrix whose norm is less than 1. Right, so if E is a matrix with norm E less than 1, then I minus E is non-singular, and then the series has the form I minus E inverse and the other things. So let us prove one by one, because all of them are the consequence of the previous result, right? So because E is less than 1 implies absolute value of this is less than 1, right? For all so let's say lambda. And so because we already proved that because we already proved that lambda is less or equal to norm of E, right? The previous results. So because of that, if E is less than 1, then lambda is less than E, right? So that is, so basically I can name like this. So we prove this, and this is less than 1. Right, so for all eigenvalues lambda 1 up to lambda n, this one is less than 1. Right, so clearly right, so 1 minus lambda I is strictly greater than 0, right? Because if absolute value of I lambda I is less than 1, so it is a number between minus 1 and plus 1, so it cannot be equal to 1. So lambda I cannot be equal to plus 1. So lambda 1 minus lambda I cannot be 0. So that is obviously strictly positive, right? But I minus E, its eigenvalues are 1 minus lambda 1, 1 minus lambda 2, up to 1 minus lambda n. But they are non-zero. If all the eigenvalues of a matrix are non-zero, right, because of this property, they are non-zero, right? If they are non-zero, then right, so I minus E is non-singular. Right. So that is the first part. Right, for the second part, let's compute this. Right, so you multiply I minus E with I plus E plus E squared plus E to the power k. Right. So if you multiply this, right, you will get I minus E to the power k plus 1. Right. Right, so I forgot to mention one more results here, but I will mention it here. Huh? So from this, what you get is I plus E plus all the way up to EK is equal to I minus E inverse minus I minus E inverse e to the power k plus 1. Okay. So if this is true, then you multiply by I minus E inverse, because by first part you know inverse exists, right? So you can do that. Right? So here I am going to use the results. Right? So if norm of E is less than 1, then E is a convergent matrix. Right? So now if you take the limit on both sides, right? So when you take k goes to infinity on both sides, left side you have an infinite sequence or series, I plus e square plus e cubed up to all the way up to e to the power infinity, right? It will continue. But here I minus e inverse is here, but I minus e inverse times e to the power k plus 1 will goes to 0. So you get I plus e k infinity up to infinity is equal to I minus e inverse. So that gives you the second part. Right? Third part and fourth part are just mechanical work. Right? So I will give you the just a hint and you can finish it off. There is no mathematical the numerical thing here. Right? So now you know that third part. Right, so if you take the norm of this, right, on both sides, from the second part, you get this. By norm property, this is less or equal to I plus norm of E plus norm of E k plus so on. Right, so this is actually this. K is running from 1 to infinity, norm of E to the power k. Right? So this is a geometric series, right? So the sum of geometric series, you know, it is 1 minus norm of E. Right? So this is geometric series. And so when you sum the geometric series, you get this. Right? So that is just taking the norm on both sides and apply the sum of the geometric series. The fourth part is this. First, you know, I minus E inverse times I minus E is identity, right? So what you have is I, you move the other side, I minus E inverse is equal to negative of I minus E inverse E. Right, so if you rearrange this, you get I minus E inverse is equal to, right? So I, you move this I minus A inverse I here. So I minus E inverse is equal to minus I minus E inverse times minus of E, right? So now you take the norm. Is equal to, when you take the norm, minus goes, so it is I minus E inverse times E, right? By norm property, this is less or equal to I minus E inverse times norm of E. But I minus E is inverse is less than 1 upon 1 minus E. You know that. So this is less or equal to 1 over 1 minus norm of E times norm of E. Okay. So that is how you prove the fourth result, right? So just this manipulation, I minus E inverse times I minus E is an identity. So just rearrange everything and then apply the norm, and then the norm property, multiplicative property of the norms, and then you apply the previous results to get the final inequality. Okay. So now these are the properties, or these are the concepts which we want to use, right, to get the next results. Right. So after getting the next results, what we are going to do is we are going to define or derive an estimate for the error. Right. So we will talk about that in the next class. Right. So I will stop here and I will continue in the next class.